Hi there, I am Adam Kirpas, and this is my novel Life Choices. On that day, Miss Malham decided to stay at home with her children. Little Frederick caught her heart. She pondered for quite a while whether this was a decision, whether she would ever regret this decision. You know, some people make a decision, stand on a crossroad. They do not know which way they want to go, but they somehow know either way, either decision you make, you will regret it in the end. People who do not feel satisfied with their lives, you know, either way, your life will never really turn up as it is. And this is what Miss Malham pondered about. Later, she thought about that no matter what decision she would have made, it wouldn't have changed a thing. This is later on in your life when you see the world as it is, when you are struck by reality or in a way conceded to reality, you give up your dreams. And one key moment where your dreams do not poke you anymore, do not encourage you and motivate you anymore. This very moment is when you stop thinking about an alternative, when you stop imagining your life could have been different in a way or another. You are struck by reality or sickness of reality. You have lost all imagination. Life is as it is. You cannot change it. Either way, Miss Malham stood with her kids. Increasingly, she started to feel a contempt for her children. They bothered her. Their voice, occasionally, when she had her day off and she would be at home watching them, and she would feel a growing anger inside her. She would look at them and said, in the end, they are going to end up as me. She thought about the people she knew, the people she went to school with, her brothers, her family. There is no hope. There is no escape of this. This, she was sure. She even said to herself, why bother? And one of those gloomy, dark days, and there are many, she thought about ending it all. She thought about that life is nothing but suffering, that there would no light and sun shine in their lives ever. And why don't she spare herself and her children hardship? She thought about it in a rational way, in a scary, rational way, which would appall everyone, which would appall people who do not know about their circumstances. What might think, or what might let think a mother about this hideous solution? Just end it all, and at least they would not have to be bothered about it anymore, because she thought about one thing, and this would be that these are going to be drug addicts, going to be people who will not ever, in a way, succeed. She was sure of it. And this was one of those days where she would self-chastise herself, where she would be convinced that nothing good will ever come out of her. That it is maybe that it is maybe genetic. This is what people occasionally ponder about when they look at their circumstances, when they look at their surroundings. All others are successful. All others seem to do something right in their lives, and I do not accomplish. Those people, they think back at school. Why couldn't they move up the social ladder? Why did they fail? And it leaves them restless. And it always ends up, it is all me. And she could not help it. When she bought little Frederick a school bag, because he was about to enter school life, she pondered whether it was even worth the money. She pondered when he will get his first notes, his first marks, where then she would have the proof in her hand that she cannot bear any solution, that she can never be saved, never get out of it. This is what it is. But what happened came to everyone's surprise. Mrs. Malhelm did not really care about her children. She did not learn with her children. She kept her distance. The children did not really perceive her as a mother figure, but rather as an aunt or a distant relative, or maybe an older sister who is bothered by them. This is something they indeed perceived. They were bothered. She's bothered. She's vengeful. The children try to avoid her. Only when it comes to eating hours, they would gather and flock around her. But on other occasions, they would avoid her, stay away. You don't want to raise any attention. You do not want to raise sleeping dogs. This is what they were all sure about. But then, and because of this, Miss Malhelm did not really know her children. She did not know her characters. She did not know what their children like or dislike. She did not even know their favorite candy, what their favorite color, what they like to watch on TV. She bought her little Frederick, the youngest, just a random bag. She didn't care, just to fill a pocket. This is all what she thought about. This was all. She didn't care. But when little Frederick entered school, and it was one of those schools for the poor, which was scarcely furnished. The desks were all crooked. The windows were not really isolated. You could partially look through the edges. You could partially not really close the windows. During course, you would hear the noise outside. The teachers, some of them did not even had real school degrees. Some of them were even high school dropouts. the school had to make their peace with it, because those who had a degree, those who went to college, would by any means necessary avoid being transferred to a school which was actually considered nothing but a hood school. And that's why the school, in a way, looked the other way when applicants for teacher jobs did not really have the qualification. Everyone can read and write, and those teachers who went to school or in order to teach children, they would just read their books. They would learn through the job and then pass on their education. So in that sense, this school had a low quality, and it did not bother anyone, because everyone pretty much assumed that there would not be any help and that these children there would be doomed. There is no help to them. They will probably end up as drug addicts or whatever you want. So it just was a means of appearance. You wanted to coax the world into a perception that everything is right, that everything is all right. Yet it wasn't, because it still meant that poverty, that circumstances, social circumstances, would be inherited the moment those children entered school and hoped and even imagined that in a way or another the American dream would work out for them. They were badly disappointed, because people had already given up on them. There was no chance that anyone in that school would get out and accomplish a chance, but a little one. And right there came little Frederick. His siblings, nor his mother, did not test that little Frederick was a genius. He somehow flew under the radar. No one really cared. He shouldn't bother anyone. This was the main reason. But in school, increasingly, Mrs. Combs, who grew up poor herself, and she was one of the few teachers who had actually the right qualification. She was one of those teachers, one of those smart women who could work their way up, despite the fact that her mother was a prostitute and her father was the pimp who sold her mother to other men. However, and despite the fact Mrs. Combe was a success, and she dedicated her life to help others. This had, of course, to do with the fact that she could not have children of her own, and she then decided to pass on her motherly love to those who would deserve it, to those who need her help. And the first time she met little Frederick, she was immediately aware of his genius. She immediately understood that the way he sees things, how fast he can solve math issues, that he is already proficient in language, gave her a pretty clear image of the wits of the boy. And this was her beacon of hope. Exactly those children who would somehow, in a way, get out of the hoods, get out of these poor circumstances, and write the success story. She eyed him closely, and she then helped him. She talked with the principal. She talked with other people. The main issue about smart kids is that despite they are being smart, it actually does not really change anything. It doesn't. But it depends on one thing. And this is finances. This is support. Without it, you can do whatever you want and you will not succeed. And Mrs. Combs was very successful to allocate funds and channel them towards little Frederick so that he can get away, so that he will find a solution and that he can access a better school. And she then succeeded transferring him to a more sophisticated school where he would not be plagued by poverty and whatever you have. When Miss Malholm was called to the school principal's office because of little Frederick, she was pretty much sure that she would be told that her little boy would be a retard and a disappointment, and that she better take him out of school or send him towards another life choice. She thought that she would get another proof that her life is pretty much hopelessly doomed. And then she was surprised by the tone of the school principal. He was cheerful, and he called little Frederick a remarkable man, a genius who does not deserve to be among these children. Principal Payne, he was a decent man. He was not prejudiced, but he knew one thing, and this was that you could not save all. He knew that the school was in a dire situation. He knew that instead of spending money on schools, the city government would spend money on junkies to get them clean and off the street. Instead of investing in education, the city government had chosen to support programs of drug addicts, criminals, rapists, and pedophiles to integrate them into society. They pretty much started out very late about integrating people into society. They rather tried to heal the effects and did not go to the core of it. Principal Payne pretty much knew it, but he wanted to help every child, everyone he could get, to get out of these circumstances, because he sincerely believed that the responsibility of a government is that it is for the people, that it must prevent that poverty is being inherited. It must care for not those people who had already decided to throw away their lives, no, but for those who have actually not even started it, who hadn't come to make own life decisions. And he thought about it adamantly. Help the young, and you would heal the entire organism. So his cheerfulness when he broke the news to Miss Malhelm that Frederick would be transferred into another school and that she does not have to pay anything for it, that little Frederick would get support and even get little pocket money to attend school. Miss Malhelm was awe-stricken. She didn't know what to say. She thought about this as just this. Once in her life, finally, she gets something back, and she was relieved. She was over the top. She didn't expect it, something like this, that. And she again thought about Frederick's husband, this man who left us stranded. She contributed Frederick's wits solely on him. She was sure that she herself couldn't pass any good genes on the next generation. No, it had to be him. So on that day, little Frederick got his favorite ice cream. Miss Malhelm didn't know what his favorite ice cream was. However, she bought a bulk of it. And Frederick, who did not understand the attention, was just fine with it. Everyone seemed to handle him differently. Everyone seemed to act differently around him, and he was just happy, joyous. He didn't expect anything. This was the moment when Miss Malhelm pretty much became more and more arrogant, condescending. She thought that she's somehow different than all those others. And Frederick, who had saved himself, who could go now to a school for better people, and in Miss Malhelm's mind, these were all people who would deserve it, who are on top of the society, who lead the society, whose decisions have impacts on society. This is how Miss Malhelm would see the upper class. They are the ones who lead society. Their decisions are being followed. They are at the head of their time. They are on top. Their lives is not as meaningless as ours. And now her little Frederick was part of it as well. She told everyone about it, that her boy was special, that her boy was not ordinary, that he had, of course, inherited his genius from her. She did not talk about Frederick's husband who abandoned her. No, she told everyone it was her And she lived through Frederick's perception. She told everyone if she would have gotten the chance, if her parents would have seen her genius, she probably would have ended somewhere else. She probably would have been more successful, beyond what one can imagine. And she probably would have freed herself from these chains she felt every day. Of course, this arrogance started to annoy everyone. It is indeed annoying. Imagine you are this poor family. Imagine you cannot really accomplish anything and you do not see a way out. The same thought Miss Malham felt before it was announced that Frederick is special. And then they saw someone among them, one of their own, being able to get out of the hood, being able to pursue something different, a new life, a new idea. These people had already given up on them, and now they saw a success story. But they were not happy for them. They were not happy because they thought that there probably was a mistake or something. Not that Frederick was a crook. Well, this was just a little boy. They indeed would trust those conclusions drawn up by the higher class. However, that they thought it can't be that one of their own, one of those people from whom never ever anything good could come, that he would turn out to be their good. And they try to come up with explanations. Yeah, Frederick may be smart. That little boy struck everyone as smart. They claimed it even though they had never met him. But they somehow said, yeah, maybe there was a mistake in the hospital. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe they swapped the children, and now a wealthy man, a wealthy family is plagued with an idiot. And this is what these people thought of themselves, that those who have accomplished something, they must be in a way or another better. This is what society had brought them up in. You can become everything you want. You just have to try. But of course, these people who went to school, who did not succeed, and to whom it was always told that they would be stupid, that they would be dumb, they of course understood life is not just about trying. Life is not just about your will. You have to have some qualifications. You have to have some wits. And they understood that all those motivation speeches, that all the talk about things you want, all boils up to one thing, and this is your abilities, your wits. There are some skills you can acquire by practicing, by repetition, but there are other skills you have to have, no matter what it is. And these people looked in to the world in a depressing fatalism. We cannot change who we are because we are there where we are, because of who we are. And for them, little Frederick was not one of their own, but the child of someone else. And even rumors continued to spread. It was said that Miss Malhelm was a whore, despite the fact it was not unusual that women in the hood would have many children from different husbands. This was quite normal. The destruction of family led many scarred. However, they said that Miss Malhelm is probably a prostitute. She's probably one of those well-paid prostitutes, or she somehow, in a way or another, managed to coax or seduce a wealthy man, a smart man who was probably drunk, no one knows. And then this man had sexual intercourse with her, and this is how little Frederick came all about. So they would not cheer anything of his successes. They even would say it is only a matter of time until Oliver Twist would some sort of find his true parents, and then he would leave everything behind. Then he would be at home and everything would be fine. In the new school, Frederick was considered a genius as well, because it was not a school party clearly for smart children. No, it was rather a school for well-off parents who could pay the fees, who could enable their children a better education. In this school, the children had teachers who actually had a college degree, teachers who were well educated, who understood the psyche of children. The school was well equipped with the newest technology. And for a fact, this made the difference. This made the difference between the well-off children and those who are poor. And even in these circumstances, little Frederick was considered a hero, and the school was proud of him, because they were mainly the parents of those pupils. They were mainly well-off, middle class or upper class businessmen or upstarts or just people who have inherited money. They all lived in gated communities away from the poverty. They lived in suburban areas where they would not have to face the bleakness of poverty, of the hoods and so on. And despite the fact that some of those people in those gated communities would vote white or would vote left, they would be ardent advocates of socialism, of social equality, but it was, you know, more than a PR gag than really a true belief. This is something which you had to say, something people expect from you, and so they did, and they had some sort of a bad conscience about it. Those conscience bites, they kept haunting them since all what they promised to their poor constituents, to those people whom they swore an oath that they would help them, that they would elevate them from poverty. Well, the help did never arrive. It was all about their self-progress. It was all about how they could accomplish something. And political office became then nothing but a job, something you write in your resume. You were this and that. You had power. You could people make believe that they should vote for you, that they should support you, and this would look good on future job applications. There was no change of thinking. These people did not grasp that politics meant that you have to be there for the people. It is not about you. You present the good, the commodity, and the commodity is solutions. This is very important. However, little Frederick, the only poor child who was in that school, was famous. The teachers feared that Frederick would be in a way excluded because he had no money, because of his social standing. So they tried to raise compassion among the pupils, that they should take care of Frederick, that they should help him when he needs something. They should be there for him. One teacher said, "Frederick needs our help." This was rather political. They wanted to see and make everyone believe that they care for those peoples, and they wanted to make visible to their constituents, to the people who voted for them, look, the American dream is not dead. Look, we do something for you. You can accomplish this. Likewise, you only have to put in the effort. Of course, this psyche only works with blaming all the others, where you do not deliver, but just emphasize. If you would have put in the effort, you would have accomplished it. That's all what matters. And more, the pupils in that school helped Frederick. He became something like a star, the center of all attention. Frederick grew up abandoned. No one really cared about him in his home. Neighbors would not even know his name. They would just call him boy, go get that boy, don't be so loud. And even sometimes his mother would forget his name. But here in this school, with these new pupils, everyone knew him. And he was celebrated as a star. He was a genius, yes. And because of this and how he was treated in school, Frederick thought of himself as something special. Not only special to compare to his siblings or his family and the people in the hoods. No, he felt himself special even compared to those pupils with whom he went to school. He was different. It's the way they treated him. And he grew up in this notion that he does not owe anything to anyone, that he is better than anyone. And it made him arrogant. He pretty much adopted some of the condescending tone of his mother. He would tell everyone that he walks to a special school, that he would tell everyone that he is the smartest in a class. He would tell anyone, he would even exaggerate that sometimes the teachers, that they would ask him for answers, or that he would be so smart that he even sometimes taught his classmates. And arrogance led to his fall. Because the more he walked through the world, that he would be something special, the more he felt that the world would owe him something, because he knew that he was poor. He went occasionally into the homes of his classmates. He would see their wealth, and he would immediately compare their circumstances with his. They had it all. They were wealthy. They had good parents. They had nothing missing in their lives. But he had nothing, just poverty. For him, this was unfair. And the notion of it was even exacerbated the more he felt that he was a genius. And the more people made him the center of their attention. The more he felt people would have affection for him because he was poor. And there he thought to himself that the world would owe him something, that the world would have to pay him something for the poverty he endured. Even one teacher drew such a hideous picture of poverty. Even his classmates agreed, poor little Frederick, he has to bear these circumstances. And they agreed all with him. This was actually unfair. Frederick is special. He does not deserve it.